Is daydreaming a distraction from work, or is work a distraction from daydreaming? I've always placed a stigma on myself whenever I realize that I'm either daydreaming or just thinking vaguely or just going through the landscape of my own imagination. And this is mainly due to the fact that I've always praised myself as someone who can click into a state of flow, as someone who can have uninterrupted phases of work. However, there are a few cases there. Bernardo here, and this week I'll be exploring the perks of diffuse thinking. I've been recently experimenting with the ping pong technique, which is a technique in which you play around and go back and forth between focused and diffuse thinking. Dr. Barbara Oakley, she explains this concept brilliantly in her book, Learning How to Learn. When you are in focus mode, it means that you're paying attention. You are effectively focusing into solving a specific problem. And this has a really specific mapping in your brain. This happens when you're trying to solve a math problem, or you're trying to solve a puzzle, playing a hard game, or just really focusing on whatever task you're trying to achieve. Diffuse thinking, on the other hand, is when you have nothing in particular in your mind. Your neurons, they fire in a completely different way. And this happens when you're not thinking about anything in particular, you're just spacing out, relaxing at the balcony, or just doodling for fun. When you're in diffuse mode, you're gently using different parts of your brain than you would be using if you're in focus mode. And this allows you for imaginative connections between ideas. Creativity seems to pop out and surface whenever you are on diffuse thinking. However, what happens is you gotta play back and forth between focused thinking and diffuse thinking in order to learn effectively and properly create the connections between the ideas that you have. We've been bombarded for the last few decades with literature around focused work and deep work, and I'm an avid reader of such titles myself. However, I've noticed that I can't always have 4 to 6 hours of undisputed work, undisputed space and time for myself. So I've noticed that the ping pong technique often works quite well on a day-to-day basis for myself. And using underlying techniques such as the Pomodoro technique, in which you can break your time chunks into blocks of half hour that has 25 plus 5 minutes blocks, I've realized that using this kind of structure I can work in a focused thinking mode for 25 minutes, and then I can have some sort of diffuse thinking for 5 minutes. At least for me, what works is I just go to the balcony, I space out for 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then come back to work. But it will definitely take a different form for yourself. It can be in the form of a walk or just some kind of space and time in your house that you can allocate to let your mind wander free. Salvador Dali had a fantastic way of implementing such technique. He would focus work for some time, and then he would sit in his armchair holding a massive key in his hand. And whenever he dozed off, he'll just drop that key on the floor and wake up with the sound of the key clicking. Kevin Kelly, in his beautiful piece, 68 Bits of Unsolicited Advice, he mentioned that everyone should learn how to power nap. That's really powerful. By jumping back and forth between focus and diffusion, you allow your mind to create pathways and connect ideas that would seem contrasting. And that's, at least in my perspective, a really good recipe for creativity, therefore for innovation. That's it for this week. Thanks for joining me here, and I would love to hear if you've tried implementing such techniques before, or if you're looking forward to implement these 25 plus 5 blocks of time, focus thinking, diffuse thinking in your day-to-day activities. Just let me know, I'd love to hear from you. And as always, see you next week.